deport Rohingya refugees who've come from Myanmar fleeing what they call persecution and violence has raised a lot of questions. To talk about this, I have with me India Foundation's Rajat Sethi, who's written a piece for us today as well as part of our Talk Point series, where other experts have also weighed in. Rajat, to begin with, are the Rohingya Muslims in this country really a security threat?
Thank you, Ruhi, for having me on this Twitter live show. To answer a question to begin with, on the face value of it, you might say that Rohingya Muslims are innocent, politically persecuted people, and which is all part of the fact.
Right.
However, what has been happening is, if you see the recent bout of the violence that has happened in the Rakhine state, is a matter of worry. You need to also look into the global Islamic jihad landscape in the region.
Right.
ISIS for long has failed to create any dent in the South Asian subcontinent, in the Indian subcontinent, to have any visible impact. Now, there is a set of stateless citizens, stateless people who have been politically severely persecuted by the Buddhists in Myanmar. And they, by the very virtue of their vulnerability, has and will be the target of these radical forces. And as a matter of fact, I would also want to quote here what has happened is, right before the night of this violence that happened against the police and the military checkposts of the Myanmar government, the Bangladeshi intelligence officials and the Indian officials as well have intercepted calls between Hafiz Tohar, who is the military wing chief of ARSA, which is the Arakan Salvation Army, which is it's a terrorist body and is waging a war in the Rakhine state against the Myanmarese establishment. When they intercepted the call, they realized that Hafiz is directly in touch with Lashkar-e-Taiba, and he is in touch with the ISI and the Bangladeshi terror networks as well. So we cannot be fooled by ignoring the complete the jihadist landscape in this area and just treat these people plainly on humanitarian
Sure.
grounds.
Rajat, I take your point. However, there's been no credible report, no evidence that the Rohingya Muslims have been involved in any kind of terror activities from our soil. Isn't it unfair that merely on the basis of assumption, we tell them to go back to a place where they are clearly facing a lot of persecution?
Ruhi, I think all security decisions are based on assumptions. You don't need to have a 9/11 in your backyard before you take a decision.
Right.
Especially security matters are done on a rigorous security scenario analysis. A lot of scenarios are played out, and you take corrective actions before the fact. You can't have a post facto analysis over Twitter as to why did this happen. We did not take any precautionary measure. It's fine. I do understand that there's a huge humanitarian crisis going on. We need to adopt a policy to extend a hand of support to the people who have been persecuted. However, we need to also take into account the potential security threat these stateless people as refugees might open up, and there's a big might there.
Right. Well, let's talk about the principle of international law. I know we have India is not a signatory to the UN Convention on Refugees, but what are the obligations on us despite that?
I think it's the customary humanitarian grounds which always remain as the benchmark for any country, and a progressive democracy like that of India. India so far has been very benignly accepting lot of refugees.
Right.
From Bangladesh. Also, we have around 50 lakh Bangladeshi Muslims residing in Assam and West Bengal. That's a huge number. No other country has had such good track record of taking in refugees.
Right.
Of all hues and colors, and it's across religion. But you need to also understand what has happened because of this influx of refugees, and who are not just political refugees, mind you. They have been economic refugees primarily, who have come into India to grab the resources. And you know very well as to how this has torn apart the social fabric of the Northeast India. And they are still reeling with this enormous pressure of illegal migrants who are residing within India in the northeastern part. How do you not take this into account while formulating a refugee policy or any such the policy to incorporate or take in refugees from other countries?
Sure, but we've also taken in refugees, Sri Lankan Tamils, we've taken in Tibetans, we've taken in Afghans. Why is it that suddenly today the government feels that the Rohingya Muslims are a problem?
Fair enough. None of these other examples that you quoted, especially the Tamil Sri Lankas, they had been the ones who were persecuted, severely persecuted, and here they were also facing a severe humanitarian crisis. However, what has happened is the radicalization of the hotheads
Right.
in Rakhine area is a matter of concern. All we are saying is we already have taken 40,000 Rohingyas, which is a huge number. And you know what happened? Where did they go out and settle? They settled in very strategic pockets within India. How they ended up going to Jammu and Kashmir? These are all small dots which a strategic person needs to connect
So you are saying
to come out with a security
they are
assessment.
settling down in vulnerable, susceptible areas,
Absolutely,
which you
yeah.
think is a security threat.
Yeah, there is something who is coordinating the movement of these migrants on the ground. Why are they coming and settling in Hyderabad? Why are they going and changing the potential demography, even if it is by a small amount, in Jammu and Kashmir, which is already so sensitive, and they really never want any Kashmiri Pandit to come back and have what is their very much right. They don't want them coming into their land, but they are happily accepting the Rohingya Muslims to come into their land and get property, etc.
Right, well, I'll actually quickly take a viewer question which we've just got. It's from @Farid-ul-Haq. Will government send back Tibetan Lama?
Where does that question come in from?
It's talking about basically refugees.
No, these are two different things. And when you're taking in somebody as dignified as a Dalai Lama, he brings in a spiritual value. He also brings in a lot of international strategic value also. I don't see that with Rohingya Muslims, I'm sorry to say.
Right. Well, Rajat, let's talk a little bit about the Bangladeshi immigrants in the Northeast, which you just mentioned. You've mentioned how the Bangladeshi Muslim immigrants are creating issues, or you perceive that as an issue.
No, the government of India perceives it. The kind of radicalization that is going on in the mosques and in various...
But there are Hindu immigrants as well from Bangladesh?
Yes, there are Hindu immigrants
That's
as well.
not an issue?
So far, no. If they are radicalized, we'll have to look into it. But so far, the Bengali Hindus who have migrated from Bangladesh have been primarily because they were politically persecuted within Bangladesh. The Muslims had raped the wives and the daughters. They had to fled those regions under severe circumstances.
Right.
And they came in because this is the only place that they can go into.
Right.
Why did Bangladeshi Muslims come into India? You need to understand the reasons. They were not politically persecuted. They came in for economic reasons. They wanted to grab the resources, grab the land. Therefore, they took the Brahmaputra route through the riverine areas and to come into Assam.
Sure.
And they are no small numbers, 50,000, 20,000, there are 50 lakh of them.
Right.
And this was also, part of the accepted in the Lok Sabha debates as well.
Right.
So it's an established fact that these are none other than the Supreme Court is monitoring that we need to identify through the NRC, the National Register of Citizens in Assam, we need to identify where these illegal migrants are sitting and deport them. So this refoulement policy that you are saying, what do we do with these people? Should we send them back? Should we have them? Supreme Court is of the view that yes, we should deport them.
Right. Well,
now, will India do that or not on this customary humanitarian grounds is something for the government of the day to decide.
The Supreme Court has asked the government to explain the deportation of Rohingya Muslims.
Supreme Court has not admitted the application of the Rohingya Muslims till now. There is a plea of a couple of Rohingya women, to the Supreme Court, but the court hasn't admitted the plea.
Right.
So
well, I do take your point, which is fair about Bengali Hindus being persecuted in Bangladesh, which is the reason you've used to tell us why they needed to come to the Northeast.
True.
Well, I think, can I extrapolate that and say that is also the reason why the Rohingyas are coming in, because there is a lot of violence that is being inflicted on them. So if you're showing such humanitarian grounds to the Hindus from Bangladesh, why can't we use that for the Rohingyas as well?
No, as long as they are not radicalized by certain networks which are at play to sabotage India's internal security, as far as that angle is looked into, I am sure that the government of India of that day will take the necessary actions. And for that matter, Modi government has seen the maximum influx of Rohingya Muslims. 40,000 of them are residing in India.
Right.
It is the Modi regime which has it is happening. They very well know where they are living. They haven't deported them out.
Right.
They have said that we need to identify where they are, so that we can keep a track on them as to what activities they are involved in, or are there any of these vulnerable youths who could potentially be utilized by ISIS network or ISI and Lashkar-e-Toiba against the interest of the people of this country.
Sure. There is another viewer question. I think you're getting all questions on similar lines. This one says, will the government send back Sindhis to Pakistan?
I think this debate is a much more serious debate than having non-serious questions. It's a matter which has long been addressed. I am also a migrant. My family actually came in from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And the kind of persecution that we have faced and my grandmother have faced, the horrific stories that they have shared, India then has accepted us. And I also believe that on humanitarian grounds, we have been accepting by far all kinds of people, and our policy has been to accept, as long as we are not threatening the internal security and the social fabric of this country.
Right.
This is very important. And having these questions like Sindhis and all is kind of like delaying this, making it non-serious.
Right. Well, we know PM Modi did visit Myanmar. He in fact came back just yesterday. Do you think his visit would make any difference to the situation with how the government is going to deal with the Rohingyas here?
I think Government of India's policy has been of non-interfering in the internal matters of other countries. The national head, Aung San Suu Kyi, she is herself looking into this. She's doing every bit to implement the Kofi Annan report, which was an informal report, a group of people who have come out with a set of recommendations. However, she's finding it difficult. She needs to sift through the innocent people who've been persecuted vis-a-vis the terrorists who have gone into this for their ulterior motives and are trying to challenge the Myanmar's government's writ in that region. All their objectives is very clear, is to militarize Rakhine, the state completely, build a narrative of torture. And these extrajudicial killings are happening in this area, and then further radicalize more people.
But that definitely does not justify the persecution of everybody from the community.
No. I fully agree. Therefore, a level of thought has to be given to this problem. You cannot be what other senior people like Prashant Bhushan and all have shared on your website in this article, that India has never seen religion angle into any of these aspects. This is blah blah blah. This is all derailing the core agenda. The core agenda remains the same. It is ensuring the internal security of this country. That is first and foremost. Everything else will follow. And if we foresee that, yes, these people, they're a small bunch of people, they're not many in number, the total 10 lakh Rohingya Muslims, half of them have gone to Bangladesh already. But if there is a systematic way of identifying them and ensuring that we have a robust policy of monitoring their movement, yes, why not?
So to get it straight, you are saying that religion is not playing a role at all in this decision?
I don't think so. I mean, they are making assumptions.
Right. So to wrap up, Rajat, really, this is a larger question, as you've been talking yourself about the humanitarian approach versus being pragmatic versus serving your own national interest. Is this moral dilemma at this point difficult for the government? Because really these people that we are sending back have no home to go back to. It's not like they can go back to Myanmar.
Yeah.
We're not sending them back to any country. So how does the government deal with this moral dilemma?
I think the government of India and the Home Minister of State Kiran Rijiju made it very clear that we have had such high pedestal for on humanitarian grounds ourselves. The kind of benchmark that we have established for the world in general is a very high benchmark, and we will live up to that. However, we need to take a step back and get a full picture view as to what it is happening. Are there an orchestrated movement of these refugees in the country? Are there greater actors, extrajudicial actors also, who are actually at play behind these people's movement within our country? If these apprehensions are sorted, I'm sure that the government would be very happy to extend some kind of a support, if not a full citizen status, or a temporary refuge for these people before the Rakhine state issues are addressed by the Myanmarese government.
Right. Well, that was Rajat Sethi talking about the government's decision to deport the Rohingya refugees who've come in from Myanmar. Do read his piece on theprint.in and the other pieces by experts in TalkPoint as well. Thank you so much for watching, and Rajat, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.